Join Tim and Kristina Madden, co-founders of Executive Career Upgrades, on their podcast, the Executive Career Upgrades Podcast. As an executive in today's highly competitive job market, it can be tough to succeed. However, with Tim's nationally recognized career advice and Kristina's mindset expertise, you can reach your full potential. Tune in to upgrade your career and get ahead of the competition.
All right, we are live. Hope everyone's doing well. We are rapidly approaching Q4. Kristina, I remember when at the start of the year, I remember still January 1st, talking about all of our goals for the year.
And that big fat business plan we've been implementing day by day.
Yeah, got to have a plan. Super important. Hey, welcome to the Executive Career Upgrades Podcast. If you don't know us, we are Tim and Kristina Madden, and we help those in corporate America find jobs they love, keep the job they love, get promoted at jobs they love, right? And continually hone in that leadership and development, which is needed so importantly, because as you go to these different types of jobs with increased responsibility, right, you need tactics and strategies to be successful at that. And that's what we bring you every single week. Hey, we go live in the Executive Career Network, the fastest growing career network on Facebook. 12,000 members now in the ECN that are directors, VPs, and executives. So if you are not a part of that community, we would love to have you. To our friends over on LinkedIn and YouTube. And of course, we stream to everywhere on the internet. So you could be listening on iTunes or Spotify. Do us a favor. If you get any value out of today's podcast, hey, share this with a friend. Share this with a coworker, a business acquaintance, someone who needs to hear this information, because it could be just what they need to have a massive shift in their career. Super excited, Kristina. Before we get started, we had...
Well, hey, really quick too. Guys, if you're listening in the ECN, I know you're there because I can see you watching. We get your messages. Sometimes we see comments and you like the post, but also I have to encourage you guys to really be connecting with one another. Ask the questions that are on your mind every day in the group. I mean, you cannot find a better free resource than that group there for networking and to get your questions answered about your current job search. It's a free resource, guys. And in these groups, sometimes we forget to interact. Like, we forget what's right at our fingertips. And I meant to say this along the way here on our podcast, but we know you're there. And we know, we get all these requests every day, but then I think people like freeze up and they don't want to interact. And guys, you got to start interacting more with each other and us to get the information you need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, this week has been a good week. We've already had 8 offers come in, Kristina, and it's only midday Wednesday. So, hey, if you're in ECU, if you're in one of our programs, obtaining your career, wish you the best of luck. And if you haven't wrapped up the offer yet, I know you're working with the team or myself. So congratulations to everyone who got offers. We're still only midweek, and go on and do great things. Hey, the other thing, super excited for this, Kristina. We are, this weekend, get to take members from the ECU team to go on a little mini vacay for a challenge we had. So I know we're super excited about that. We have some of our team in Sweden, some of our team overseas, and all over parts of America. So I'm super excited to see them this weekend as well. And lastly, before we get started, hey, if you need help in your career, go on over to execupgrades.com/podcast. So let's get started, Kristina. Episode 96. This is a tough one for people. We were just talking about this last night because you had an event. You were speaking to entrepreneurs last night, right? And episode 96, mastering your virtual executive presence, which, let's just talk about that for a second. In today's society, with technology in 2023 now, you are going to be on live events. You're going to be on Zoom. You're going to be on Teams. You're going to be on all of the other weird ones that I don't know about, right? You're going to be asked to speak and share your advice, right? And that just made me think of you last night, Kristina.
Yeah, when you think about this, it always goes back to mindset, right? So everybody, they're not everybody, but many people want to avoid this phenomenon of, massive virtual presence, or even maybe you have a limiting belief that you can't grow your career virtually, or you can't impact people virtually, or it's too hard to build a brand virtually. But I really encourage anyone that has those beliefs to start expanding, your knowledge. I guess that's why you're here today, right? How can you do that? What's most important? What should you be looking out for? But some things that you need to start thinking about is, hey, this is happening really whether you like it or not. Okay. 2022. Yeah. Last night on that event, it's super cool, right? You have a large reach from the comfort of your own office. We're going to get into some other things. You want to treat it as if it's in person. That's really what's most important. But check your thoughts. Like, what are you thinking about technology? Where do you feel you're limited? The average age of somebody that we work with is, I'm just going to say, 55, even 65 years old, right? And a lot of people I meet are very resistant or scared of this change. And I don't mean this in any kind of negative way. It's just a different new time, right? And I don't want to see that resistance hold people back from new opportunity that actually makes life kind of easier. So
yeah, and this is something, so we're talking about your virtual presence, right? Just like me and Kristina right now, we're coming to you virtually. So think about all the times that this is going to happen for you, and then we'll kind of get into some of the content. But if you're going through the job search process right now, right, you're going to interview virtually, right? When you take over your team, you're probably going to interact with your team virtually, interact with your boss virtually, present a pitch deck to the CEO virtually, right? So these are vital skills, right?
You're listening to us right now virtually. When I started Mindset Clinic with our clients, I'm like, hey, everybody, I know you're here. Turn on those cameras. Let's get used to flipping those on because the interviews are virtual. Like, let's practice being present and understanding how to be your most confident self on camera.
So let's get into it. Hey, mastering your virtual presence as an executive does require a combination of skills and strategies, right? And specifically awareness, because you need to have skills, strategies, and awareness so that you can effectively convey your leadership qualities and maintain a strong professional image. That's what we're talking about, a strong professional image in the virtual environment. So here are some tips to help you enhance, what you're already doing. So number one, I know you're kind of big on this, so I'll let you take this.
I'm super big on this. And
our team about the way we dress, the way we present ourselves, right? And then you also talk about what's behind you, because right? It's easy to see me, but it's easy to see what's behind me. And by the way, it drives me nuts. But do you see that picture that's crooked? I assure everyone, it's not crooked. It's the way the camera's pointing. Okay. It just looks crooked. So with that being said, I know Kristina is big on that. Think of her as if you served in the military, the sergeant major, right? She's making sure everyone's in the right uniform, has the right workplace setting, because otherwise, Kristina, you already know it gets distracting, right? Do you want to expand on this a little bit? Because I know we get this question all the time, right? What should I dress? What should my backdrop be? How should I prepare for the interview, right? You want to talk about that?
Yeah. Do I keep freezing up? I keep going to respond.
Nope.
Okay,
You're good to go.
I apologize to any listeners that are hearing me overlap Tim as I go to tell you a little bit more about this. But I personally spent some time with other business owners that actually took me on a deep dive of how it was already important to me. I've always been somebody who cares about how I look and what my environment looks like. I have a whole interior design situation going on over at the house because I like the way I feel at home. It's about your environment and the way that you look, because that impacts how you feel and how you show up. But to expand on that a little bit further, think about this, when you're looking for a job, okay, one of the things I would be looking at is what kind of office is this person in, and do they care about what they look like, okay? And then think about how you want to feel on an interview. How confident do you want to feel? And you have to start looking at your space and what you're wearing. I know I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I don't encourage these blurred backgrounds. I think it's kind of creepy. I think it's people kind of hiding something. I don't think it's professional. So that's just my opinion. And there's also been some research on that. You can look it up. Don't blur out your background. You want to just be very transparent and open about your surroundings. And then, yeah, think about, oh my gosh, okay, if I feel really great in that purple blazer and that pearl necklace, and I need to put on a little lipstick that day to feel great, do that. And it's important what we see, right? So when I surround myself with my team, or I'm talking to somebody, I know what I see impacts my mood. So when I look at Tim, I want to see something great. So I'm like, that's it. Everybody's in jackets. We're going to spruce up our office. And what happened when that happened? Everybody now raves about the culture. Revenue increased. Everybody just feels better. You can feel the energy on the meetings. And as far as kind of the techie side of it, you can get yourself a nice, for those of you watching on a live stream, you can get yourself a nice little lighting situation, a ring light or a lume cube, I think this is called.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can play around with your Zoom filters a little bit. Get yourself positioned to feel as confident as you can, because the outcome of the meeting matters, right? The outcome of the interview matters. So you have to feel your best. Guys.
And that's just whether it could be with your team as well, right? So I know we're talking about the job search, but this matters outside of the job search as well, because most of what you do is going to be in this virtual environment, right? So just like in in-person interactions, your appearance matters. In the military, here's how this is how we think in the military. You can be the best at what you do, meaning you can have a high physical fitness assessment. You can be really in shape. You could know your job inside and out. But if you're showing up to a new unit per se, and maybe your uniform just looks like it was crumpled, right? And you kind of put it on and it looks like a mess and it's all wrinkled. In the military, they see that as kind of unprofessional. So you're targeted already, right? Before you even get to explain yourself, talk to your team, etc. So how you look matters, right? And I know, we're only sharing our opinions here. I know there's lots of tech companies, right, that allow people to just work in whatever they want, etc., right? But I will tell you, from a consumer on this end, when we purchase products, Kristina and I, if we're making large investments into the business, whether it's in any aspect, Kristina is a stickler for, if they didn't show up professionally, if they didn't communicate effectively, if they don't have if their space isn't clean and not chaotic and stuff, she probably doesn't want to do business with them, no matter how good the product or service is, because it's like, hey, if people on the team can't even show up as a professional, right, and have like a clean professional setting, what do you think that says about your fulfillment inside your company? Or what do you think that says about you as a leader?
Or just how you are in life. So I hate to, sometimes I'm like, man, I hate to be a stickler about that, because some people have really great skill sets, but it's also just, listen, my grandpa told me one time, don't ever date or marry a man with a messy car on the inside, because it just says so much about a person's character. And I guess that just got drilled into me. It's just so true. So I married a military man thinking he made the bed in the morning. He does not make the bed in the morning, but
I did when it was required. Now I'm trying to get out the door. So, hey, dress professionally, right? If you're a corporate leader and you're in a relaxed remote environment, here's the deal. You can wear boxers if you want, if you're a guy. But I would think this is a minimum. If I was in corporate America, regardless of what I did, if I was a director, VP, or an executive, I would at minimum wear this shirt and a jacket for everything, because it just shows people, when you show up to a call like this, you just kind of see like, oh, he's a professional. And it's kind of weird, because if you ever decide to potentially look at the products and services, by the way, go on over to execupgrades.com/podcast, right? You can connect with our enrollment team. We all wear this as well. We have our clients saying all the time, Kristina, like, you guys who are watching will hop on clients with our enrollment team, and we dress professionally, right? And we have clean backgrounds that are not distracting, and we have decent lighting, right? And already when executives show up on their first call with us, Kristina, you know what they say. They're like, oh, wow, sorry, I'm not dressed enough. I'm not this, or yeah. And we just start off with, hey, we are professionals. We know what we look like. We know we want to feel good, and we know we need a clean space. Otherwise, it's going to distract you. So these are things really just like professionals do. So how are you going to get people to take you seriously if you're not dressing like a professional, if you're in some dim, dark room and you have a mess behind you.
And I think when this huge opportunity of working remotely happened, especially after COVID, it was so easy to, unintentionally get very lazy about this and think it doesn't matter because we're working from the comfort of our own home. But trust and believe me, it really does matter. If you see, there's even some reels and probably some YouTube content of me, I don't know, a year and a half to 2 years ago, and you see me in a baseball hat and like a t-shirt, because I wear those things frequently, right? But I look back and I think, oh my gosh, like I can't.
Well, really, it was until our mentors, who are some of the most successful in business, said, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and it's funny because we weren't even aware of it. Right. We were like, well, we're just dressed for work. They're lax. We're lax. They're like, no, you're a professional services company who helps people in their career. Like, this is important. So I don't want to spend too much time here. How you look is important on video. Okay. And number two, think about this. You're going on an interview trying to make 300, 400, 500, 600, 800, 900K a year. And you're meeting with executives and you're not showing up like this. To me, that would be an immediate no-go in our organization anyways. Right.
Even if they're not client facing, it's totally, yeah.
Yeah. And thank you, Tony. Appreciate that. There is research that shows how you dress impacts how you communicate and act. Thank you. The more casual you dress, the more casual your communication style, cadence. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, hey, get yourself in your area right? Number two, just what Tony said too, confidence in body language, right? You have to maintain confident body language by sitting up straight, maintaining eye contact with the camera, and using hand gestures appropriately. Most importantly, avoid distracting habits like fidgeting, looking away from your camera, or playing with your phone. Now, with that being said, Kristina talks about this a lot as well, as she kind of be present while we're here on this call. It's so easy. How many times have you been in corporate America where you've been on a one-on-one with your boss and he's like multitasking the whole time, multitasking on meetings, not paying attention? And hey, I need to work on this area. I'm sorry. One-on-one, I'm typically pretty good, but with the team, I'm like taking notes and, hey, let me check this. And I probably shouldn't be doing that, right? Because it comes off as like I'm not paying attention, right? When I'm literally like trying to keep notes and stuff. So some of the best distractions to you are this thing right here.
It's real easy. Just flip it over.
Put it down, leave it here. Because when you're with your team, when you're with your future employer, when you're with cross-functional teams, when you're with vendors, you probably want to be present in those meetings, right? But if you have screens full of stuff, distracted area, not looking good, phone out, it's beeping at me. Oh, I got to check these emails. Right? How do you think that's going to come across? I know we typically talk about interviewing, but say you're a team member. I have a one-on-one with my boss or my leader, right? And I feel like he or she is not paying attention. Probably not a good place, right?
And it's so easy to not even notice you're doing it. That's why I use the flip the phone over and put it to the side rule, because that kind of triggers you to not flip it back over. And for example, like if you're involved in, like if you're one of our clients listening, or you're involved in another coaching program or a mastermind or whatever, and you show up to get really great information and you're not even interviewing, oh my gosh, I used to do this all the time. I'd be invested in a program and I just got my camera off, or I'm halfway listening and I'm looking at stuff, and you're just robbing yourself of great information, amazing opportunities. And it's just so easy to do. I know it sounds so silly, guys, but like social media will just distract you for hours. Well,
here's another thing. I know we're talking about virtual presence, right? But it's just as important as in person. Like me and Kristina, we got some masterminds, some events planned with our mentors, different conferences, places we're speaking, etc. Hey, there's going to be people there that, are more successful than us in business, right? Business is big. How do we want to show up to those events, right? Think about this. Who are we trying to network and collaborate with? Do you think if we showed up like not looking good, it's probably harder to build those relationships too, okay? So, number 3. I'll take this one, Kristina. Tech. Familiarize yourself with the virtual meeting platforms, Teams and Zoom primarily, right? And you also got WebEx, right? Troubleshoot potential technical issues in advance to avoid disruptions during important discussions. So we travel all the time. Sometimes there's updates that's required, new things, etc. Guys, I can't tell you how many directors, VPs, and executives that I meet with where we only have 30 minutes, and for 10 minutes, we're troubleshooting a video or an audio thing. Not very good. Do you want to get on with your potential employer, right? Or your boss? Oh, sorry, I'm running late. I didn't update my stuff. I'm sorry. No, right? So already do a double check, okay? Because virtual environments are unpredictable. Be adaptable in handling technical glitches, changes in the agenda, or unexpected disruptions. Like, for instance, I don't know someone whose internet does not go out. I don't care if you got Comcast or Starlink or whoever. Internet goes out, right? What's your plan if you lose internet? Here's my backup plan. I got a Wi-Fi hotspot on my phone. So if I ever lose signal, internet goes down, I know, hey, let me turn on my Wi-Fi, let me connect to the computer. Hey, I'll be back on in 2 minutes. All right, contingencies, right? So make sure you know those platforms. You do not want to be late to a meeting because of a technical issue. Whether they're cross-functional teams, executives, your team, or an interview, they're all drastically important, okay? Kristina, do you want to talk about consistency? And what I specifically mean is like maintaining consistency in your online presence. Things like the impact of just having your same picture on your Slack, your email, the company website, your social media, you know what I mean? The different stuff. Do you want to talk about why consistency is kind of key across different platforms?
Yeah, but first, before we hop on over to that, I wanted to also talk about empathy and connection. So I think a lot of, people have this belief system that you can't, have this amazing human connection experience virtually. And we have to toss that belief system out the window because most of us, this is what we're left with, the virtual experience. Okay. Tim always says, and I actually think it's John Maxwell, many communicate, few connect.
Everyone communicates, few connect.
Everyone communicates, few connect. And so you can imagine, as everyone is trying to navigate this virtual landscape, people are probably struggling to connect, right? And so people are craving connection now more than ever. So you have to position yourself to be asking great questions, practicing empathy, and getting really personally invested in people's, personal, professional, financial goals, understanding, like in an interview strategy, for example, that's what we teach our clients is how to uncover the pain points and have a great interview, right? Because there is a barrier there, because of that not being in front of each other, you now have an even more personal responsibility to be in a great place to communicate, practice empathy, and truly know how to connect with people through your spoken, language. So I can't emphasize that enough. As far as consistency, we're talking about branding with this. Okay. Mm-hmm. Your LinkedIn resume, guys, listen, it took us 10, 12 years for this to really even hit home. So I could preach at you all day about this, and maybe it'll hit somebody today and maybe next week, I don't know, or maybe, somebody listening to this podcast down the road. But if you're not promoting you, who is promoting you? Okay, this is your responsibility. You have to have an awesome picture out there. You have to be producing content. You have to be in the algorithm, just like you would back in the day if you were going knocking on doors or you were showing up at companies and taking your resume in the 90s, whatever it was. Like, you have to be doing that, but now on your computer. So,
but most importantly, with the consistency, hey, if you're working for a business or going after a job, make sure you have a professional picture on your email, a professional picture on your LinkedIn. If you're on Slack or Teams, you have a professional picture there, right? Next, hey, time. Actually, first, let's go to a couple questions. It was Rajesh said, hey, is it okay to be overdressed than the interviewer? Absolutely. It's actually better. There's something called like a power status, right? Of like, when you show up to a meeting and you know you look professional, I'm telling you, you have the edge. So again, this is my go-to interview. I wouldn't go too formal, right? I'm not going to wear a bow tie or something I'd wear to a formal dinner. I'm excited too. We're going to the Inc. 5000 dinner, right? But this is probably like good enough unless it's some higher level banking thing where we know everyone wears ties or something like that, but it's completely okay. Yep. And I like what Thomas says. I dress up in a sports coat and dress shirt and pants for any video call. And being unemployed, I try to dress like I have an office shop every single day. Absolutely. Keep a good solid office space and would love some advice as to what's lacking or what I'm doing right. Well, hey, the good news is it sounds like your virtual presence is on point. But unfortunately, landing a job you love, that is one small point of many that you need, Tom, right? We need to know how do I brand myself and position myself correctly? How can I get a hold of people that can actually hire me? What do I say to them? How do I convert those interviews to offers? How do I talk about money, right? Those are all of the things you know. It seems like you're doing absolutely well in the virtual presence thing. So, hey, good job there.
And, what I was going to say, for those of you that are unemployed, it's even easier to sit in your sweatpants and mope around and whatever. But again, one of the biggest life hacks you can do is to throw on something you feel decent in, even if you don't have interviews lined up. I tell Tim all the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to go take a shower. I got to put my makeup on. I got to like get myself together. And he's like, you're putting on your armor. Like, even on a Saturday, I'm like, I have to go reset, put some fresh clothes on, whatever, because I'm grumpy otherwise. I don't feel great about myself and nothing's getting done. And that's just the way it is. And maybe not everybody feels like that right now, but if you practice putting in place some things that you feel good, just watch how things get done. I mean, it's just different. It's a different energy.
Mm-hmm. Time management, specifically for your team while interviewing and interactions. Hey, respect people's time by starting and ending meetings punctually. This demonstrates professionalism. So, hey, I get it. As busy executives or directors, whichever, right? We are busy, right? But remember, right? This is why we have to prioritize our time. No one wants to show up to a meeting with their team or an interview, anything late, right? And we typically don't want to keep people late either. So sometimes this, right, you may need to rework, like, how long do you need on this meeting? I'll tell you how we run meetings, right? As quickly as possible, and people will love you for it. Okay. We have a daily sync meeting with everyone in ECU. There's about 30 of us right now. And it's a 15-minute meeting that typically lasts 5 minutes, because it's like, hey, marketing, what important updates do you have? Sales, what important updates do you have? The different departments, what important updates do you have? Oh, okay, we're done. It's been 6 minutes. Hey, see you later. Right? So how do you run your meetings, right? Are you giving yourself enough time? Are you showing up on time? Are you ending on time? Very, very important. Anything you want to add on that, Kristina, or no? Or do you want to talk about empathy and connection?
Well, I covered most of empathy and connection already. We just need, you have to be in a place to ask people, questions that matter to them and their life and their day-to-day goals, to stay connected with them. So just because you're on camera, please don't forget that that's another human being that has more going on than what you're just seeing and hearing. And that's empathy. That's empathy and connection.
To that too, hey, it's despite this virtual barrier, it's kind of funny. People always say, like, can we meet? I'd rather meet you in person or whichever. I'm like, I'm here right now, right? Like, I can see you, I can talk to you, right? Like everything, right? So, but with that being said, despite this virtual barrier sometimes, and this is primarily connecting with the team, right? Like, how can we do that emotionally? How can we acknowledge their contributions, express empathy, and show that you value their input, right?
I read in a book recently, what was it called? It is called The Methods of Management of Jesus, and it was oh my gosh, you guys, I can't talk, by Bob Briner. I'm sure you know who he is. But one of the things in it that it talked about, and it's all in alignment with scripture, but brag often and publicly. So if you're on these meetings, make sure you're bragging about people and you're highlighting their wins and doing as much as you can to make people feel seen and heard and appreciated. This is one of the best things you can possibly do for your team. And then again, ask great questions about their goals, family. You guys, well,
yeah, we won't get too much into this, right? Because this could be its own section, right? For sure. And we talked about how to meet with your team and talk about the professional, personal, financial goals. That is extremely important. But to that, Kristina, something that we can dig into a little bit is talk about engaging people while you're on Zoom. You're really good at that too, right? Ensuring people have the opportunity to contribute during a meeting, and making sure maybe we're calling on some of those quieter team members or clients to share their thoughts and ideas. I know you do that a lot, right?
Guys, hey, listen, sometimes you guys might be even nervous, right? Even I get nervous. Tim was talking about the speaking engagement last night. I still get a little nervous. At one point, last year, I could even feel myself even shaking a little bit. My mentor tells me, just because you're scared doesn't mean you can't do it. Do it scared. And if you're feeling physical sensations of, shaking or having a response to fear, that's okay. Actually, let me slow down here because this may happen to many of you on an interview, okay, or before an interview. So if you're getting ready to log on virtually and you've got an interview you're super excited about and you start feeling yourself physically feeling fear and anxiety, I've got to tell you, you have to normalize this for yourself and tell yourself, this is my body having a physical reaction to something that would make somebody nervous. It doesn't mean the other person can see the shaking. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to be able to communicate clearly, and likely it won't impact the conversation at all. Okay. So let yourself, feel those things that start to happen when you're, getting ready to log on camera and do something you've never done before. With that being said, I got a little off track here. But what were we even talking about before? Oh, the fear. Oh, getting people engaged, right? So yeah. Let's say you're on a team meeting and you've got 20, 30 people there. It's your responsibility to find some ways to get these people engaged. You are the leader, right? So whether that's, hey guys, flip your camera on, start using your Zoom reaction button, raise your hand. Can we get a celebrate? Drop the hearts in there. I mean, I know it sounds really cheesy. Play some music in the background until everybody's logged on. Find some things that fit the culture.
The only way this is the only way in a virtual environment, right? This is what you're limited to, right, Kristina? While some people may think it's silly, etc., it's truly the only way to engage people on these meetings, right?
I want people excited and I want them to listen to me. So yeah, I want them to interact. So find some things that fit into the culture at your company. Of course, you may not be able to throw a big party like I do every time when I start one. I don't know what your limitations might be, but look up some tools and resources. Maybe you're highlighting one win from that week. There's a number of things you guys can do here, but please do make it your personal responsibility to keep others engaged in this virtual experience.
Two more things real quick. Number one, follow up. Hey, if you're doing longer meetings and they're your quarterly meetings, your monthly meetings, etc., hey, have someone take notes, right? Or yourself, somebody send follow-up emails after meeting to summarize some of those key points, action items, decisions, right? This just reinforces your leadership and your commitment to make sure everyone's on the same page. Okay. Last thing, seek feedback from other successful people in business, whether they're a trusted colleague, mentor, friend, etc., on your virtual presence, right? So, it's not silly to hop on Zoom with a buddy of mine and say, hey man, can you just see that this looks okay, right? How do you think this looks? How do you think I looked? You got any recommendations for me? Hey, maybe do something, brighten it up, something, right? So think about this. Maybe just get a second opinion on how your virtual presence is, right? Maybe ask a team member, ask your boss, ask a friend who's in business. Hey, take a picture, take a screenshot of your virtual image, comment it below. I'll give you a score 1 through 10. I don't know, right? But hey, seek feedback from other people. What I have learned, well, I think me and Kristina have recently learned in life, it's probably going to take you many more years to learn, because it seems like the simpler the concept with the most radical freaking change in your life are the things that are so freaking easy to learn, hard to implement. And what happens is when you take for granted how you look, how bright it is, what this is, and everything else we said here, we can all agree that most of what we said is common sense. Nothing's earth-shattering, right? Let's kind of recap, right? So your dress and appearance back here, your confidence in your body language, being prepared before the meetings, having your tech set up, right? Consistency amongst your online profiles, time management, encouraging people to participate, seeking feedback. Everything we mentioned here, is this any life-shattering potential information?
It's funny. I was just talking about this last night when I came. I streamed live from at the office. We went downtown here, but when I got home, it was just so funny because I said, you know, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, once you've become an author and you've made the Inc. 5000 and you've built a company of this size, and you have a team of this size, you have the child and the dream home and the cars, and you think you're going to be talking about something just so, I don't know, quote unquote special or different or amazing, or just something you think you're going to be unlocking all these secrets and just life changing whatever. But just to Tim's point, it's always the fundamentals. So for an entire hour last night, you can look up Legacy Entrepreneurs, pretty cool group, Legacy Mike, if you want to see the live event. But he does some cool events and he's a very inspirational guy. But
well, I want to make sure we come back for a sec too, guys. So what we were talking about,
fundamentals.
Yeah. So back to just wrapping up the fundamentals, right? Is we recently got mentors, last year. And when we were trying to work on things to do better here at Executive Career Upgrades from people vastly more experienced than us in business, right? They basically, we worked together for 6 months and we got this big book, which Kristina brought up. If you look through this 372-page book, most of the concept in there are, let's just say, common sense, or if we didn't know it, that makes sense, right? However, when you add in this series, when you add 9 or 10 common sense things that you may be overlooking, simply just doing them will radically make you a better leader, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's the same with us. When we got this big book and we said, hey, all this stuff kind of makes sense. Yeah, we're going to do it. Would you know that after we've implemented that plan, we're now serving 3 or 4 times the amount of clients. We've been able to hire. We've been able to do all of these things simply from the fundamentals. So I want you, and then I'll get Kristina's impact or perspective on it. I want you to do this. What do you know you should be doing, which you aren't? And you really got to figure out why that is, right? Because most of it is fundamentals. 2 more quick stories. Look at Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. Trained every day for decades, right? What did they always start training with every time they started? The fundamentals. They would start with chest passes, dribbling with their left, dribbling with their right? Fundamentals, right? So ensure you know these fundamentals and you're implying, incorporating all of them, because one, making sure you're looking good, etc., right? But when you really line all these up together, it does have drastic impacts. All right, Kristina, sorry about that.
And if you could not get excited about what he just said, this part will get you excited. 99% of people will not do these fundamental things. So guess what?
Huge opportunity. That's why I tell people it's so easy to win. It's so easy.
If you do these things, think about the advantage of how you're going to stand out. So if we already know and we've uncovered that 99% of people are blurring out their backgrounds and they didn't take time to look and feel great, guess what? You do. And that alone is going to give you the upper hand on an interview. So just think about this alone. Okay, if you took 1 or 2 of these things, just remember 99% of people aren't doing it. So you're already winning, like Tim said. So if you need something to get excited about is like, okay, the fact that I'm going to take control of everything we just talked about, I'm going to be in the top 1% of people, interacting in the virtual space. So it's the truth.
Each day, right, your goal is to be 1% better. And if you just learn today, hey, you know what? I know Tim and Kristina talked about a lot of great stuff that I could be implementing, but if you only do one of those today, hey, you learned something today. Congratulations. Maybe it's, you know what? I'm going to rearrange my office a little bit, make it more presentable, maybe put some awards on the walls, maybe just one painting. And, I'm going to make it a point to look, a little more professional on my meetings. That's a huge win. If you implement something so simple, just one new thing a day, in literally no time, you're literally turning into a completely different person. Right? Any closing comments, Kristina?
Man, we covered a lot of ground. I feel like this could be broken down into like 2 more episodes.
All of these can be subsections.
Especially like the confidence part, guys. Be asking yourself after this episode, like, am I truly confident on camera? Because if you're not, I can tell you that you're gonna bomb these interviews. Right. So be asking myself, am I confident? Do I feel good? And if not, which one of these things can I start doing immediately? And we'll start talking about this a little bit more, guys. This is something we've actually never talked about, or almost. I mean, there might have been something similar, but not this specifically. So I'm excited about this topic, and thanks for joining us. And if you want to be on one of our mindset calls, I've got one coming up in 20 minutes. Be sure to go over and book a call with our team so we can talk about this more. Your interview.
Exactly. And if you listen to this long and you're not in one of the ECU programs, hey, we have created one more thing too. Of course, number one, you can go over to execupgrades.com/podcast, book a free career consultation with our team. Number two, hey, if you are preparing for a virtual interview, we just actually created a virtual interview outline tool, which goes step by step on the things you need to be thinking about. Not really specific to the interview, but specific with your environment, right? Like all the things we just mentioned here, we have kind of a little cheat sheet. So if you want that cheat sheet, just email me at tim@execupgrades.com and I'll send you the cheat sheet, and I wish you the best of luck. Until next week, have a great day, everyone.
Bye.